Well, can I say, just hop in there, Ashleigh, and say that it's interesting that Chris is trying to reinterpret the Governor's statements that way, because what he clearly did was to say that, quite contrary to what the government's been doing, running round for months now, saying that they were the saviour of the economy because of the stimulus package, what in fact the Governor debunked was the fact that the stimulus is solely responsible for Australia's good conditions. The Governor repeated several times in his opening statement and during his testimony the fact that the reason why there was able to be a response of the kind and magnitude that there has been to the emergency was because of the very good state the economy was left in by the former government. Quite clearly, if you go through all of the factors, including the depreciation in the dollar, the good banking and regulatory sector, and the expansionary monetary policy, all of these factors and the terms of trade with China, of course, let's not forget that. All of these factors played a role in making the economy withstand the global shock. Now,
well,
it is simplistic to say that it's just the stimulus, Ashleigh, and I think it's about time that Chris is honest about this.
Why is it so difficult, Chris, for the government to acknowledge the strong budgetary position that the coalition government left for you? It wasn't just the stimulus that kept Australia out of a recession.
Well, can I say firstly, I'm glad Helen and I can agree on something this morning. We can agree that there have been several factors leading to Australia's economic success comparatively over the last 12 months. We've said that consistently. We've said that the links with China have been important, that the state of our financial system has been important, and that the stimulus, both monetary and fiscal, have been important. The Governor confirmed that yesterday and said that the impact of the fiscal stimulus has been material and that we would be in recession without it, something the opposition has denied for going on 12 months now.
Well, that's not quite true.
Well, the Governor has said that we're in the situation where we could use the fiscal stimulus, and we did use the fiscal stimulus, and that we were in a surplus situation. Everybody acknowledges that, largely because of the mining boom. We've always acknowledged that, but we've used the fiscal stimulus, which the opposition opposed relentlessly, opposed at votes at 5 o'clock in the morning and on the third reading, and continually opposed because they didn't want to stimulate the economy. They voted against supporting Australian jobs. They voted against seeing Australia through. Well, did you vote against it or not, Helen? I mean, you did vote against it.
Okay, I think we're going around in circles a bit here.
Either they voted against it or they didn't, and the Hansard will show they voted against it.
What we in fact advocated was a smaller package, a more targeted one that wasn't going to spend so much so quickly, and in fact when you actually look at what's happened with all the waste and inefficiency that we've seen in the schools package, with money being sent overseas stimulating other countries' economies, and you look at the fact that this building program in the schools program is such a shambles that the deadline has now had to be deferred. The emergency has passed, and the government is simply stubbornly refusing to recognise that you don't need to continue to roll out this amount of money simply because all of their political cards are to continue to roll out this money. It's nothing about the economy.
That is in the past. I want to just focus on the future for a second. Chris Bowen, later today we're expecting to see the final budget outcome to be unveiled by the Treasurer Wayne Swan. Do you expect that we will see that the budget's bottom line is a whole lot better off than anyone had imagined or indeed was forecast a bit earlier in the year?
Well, look, you'll recall, Ashleigh, that when we released the budget figures in May, many commentators, including Helen and her colleagues, said that they were too optimistic, said that we were over-egging it, we were being too optimistic. That's not a criticism that you hear very often now. Now you hear more a criticism that perhaps we were a little too pessimistic. Well, we'll cop that. The Treasurer will be releasing figures when he chooses to, which relate to the budget bottom line, and I'm not going to preempt those. Of course, the majority of figures will come out in the mid-year economic forecast later in the year. That's the normal process, and we'll stick to that.
Helen Coonan, yesterday Glenn Stevens was looking at the issue of debt as well. This is an opposition argument we've heard for some time, that the high levels of debt will lead to higher taxes and higher interest rates. But Glenn Stevens said that he thinks that the debt the government's racked up is actually quite manageable. Do you agree with him?
Well, that doesn't mean to say that there's not going to be higher levels of taxes and and in fact a big impact on taxpayers.
But it is quite manageable.
Well, what in fact I think we have to say about the forecasts are that they were out to a fairly large degree. Quite clearly the economy has done better than expected, and it shows how difficult it is for the government to be relying on these forecasts as a mechanism to then talk about a rolling national security crisis. Remember back in, I think it was October, when the Prime Minister was running around saying this is akin to a rolling national security crisis. Now, he was relying on obviously advice that he'd received. Clearly that advice was perhaps too over-egging the omelette, and we've got a situation now, as we'll see, no doubt, in the final budget outcome. I don't know what's in it. I imagine Chris may not know. Either the Treasurer will announce it. But clearly there will be a significant improvement to the bottom line. We welcome that. We think it's a good thing if the economy is in recovery, and we think it is important that both sides of politics acknowledge the fragility in many respects of forecasts. They are not accurate. It's not an accurate science, and you can only do your best with the figures you are given.
Okay, well, of course, we'll have full coverage here on Sky News of the final budget outcome when we receive that this afternoon. Helen Coonan, Chris Bowen, stay with us. We'll be back in just a minute after a quick break.